Well, I'm doing really well, and I gotta say, we got a Speaker of the House. We got a something, right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Finally, after what was it? They ousted McCarthy, and then it was Scalise, and he dropped out after a couple days, and it was Jim Jordan, and he lost 3 votes in a row, and it got worse and worse for him. He had less and less votes each time, and then out of nowhere, this guy Mike Johnson shows up, and nobody knows who he is. Really, he's very low level kind of guy. And
maybe that was what he had going for him. Nobody knew who he was, so that they didn't know any better.
Right. I think they were all just exhausted, so the Republicans voted for him unanimously. But the fun thing about this guy is it turns out he's basically Jim Jordan, only he's more soft-spoken. So he is a nut. Mm-hmm. He's a total right-wing nut.
Quieter Jim Jordan.
Yep. He's
oh boy.
Well, no, he's further right than Jim Jordan in a lot of things. He's really out there. He just does it. He's just more mild mannered, right? But so here we're gonna watch a clip right now to talk about this guy. So this is The View, and yeah, they're not thrilled about this choice. So we don't usually clip from The View, but man, we had to this time.
This breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Republicans voted.
Say no more.
Unanimously voted in Mike Johnson as the 56th Speaker of the House. Now, if you're not familiar with this man, who is now second in line for the presidency, here are some of his takes on various things. Take a look.
We must vote to sustain objections to states of electors submitted by states that we genuinely believe clearly violated the Constitution and the presidential election of 2020. They're invalid.
So this is the first part he's talking about. This is one of the guys who architected the January 6th shit to try to overthrow the election. And then he got up there and said we should vote that Biden didn't win. That's what he's saying right now.
That's just the conclusion that you have to reach. If a child is halfway delivered out of the birth canal, is it permissible to have an abortion? Would you support the right for an abortion then?
I can't even fathom that ever.
I'm not asking you if you can fathom it. If it occurred, would you support that abortion or not? That's unrestricted abortion, right?
It's a question that I can't imagine. Just like you probably can't imagine what you would do if your daughter was raped.
Whoa.
So yeah, we'll watch the rest of this real quick. But God, he is.
Whoopi Goldberg says it all. Can we just bring her face?
Yeah, we'll bring her face right back. My God, yeah.
I mean, like everybody who listened to him was thinking that face.
Well, like, every Democrat, probably every woman. I mean, do you not know how the
the baby that's halfway out of the birth canal, would you abort it? Like,
no, it's a birth at that point.
I mean, at that point, it's born.
Right.
Like, what are we talking about here? What? Clearly, he needs to take sex ed all over again because he does not know how it works.
Oh, no, absolutely. But they do this all the time. They do the 9-month abortion. And I'm like, well, okay, if you're doing the term abortion in that medical sense, it just means the termination of a pregnancy. So like when you were born, you were aborted. We terminated the pregnancy, but you still lived. Right? So they're confusing because most people, when they think abortion, are thinking termination of a pregnancy that results in the death or the fetus not surviving, right? Whatever it is at that point. So it's just one of those things where it's so stupid, but they do this all the time. And that's the game they play because they know it's unpopular. And they know when you break it down logically, they sound like fucking nut jobs. That's why they always play these little games. And the thing about it that just really cracks me up is they'll do that 9-month abortion. And it's like, dude, you're talking about birth. Did you not take health class? Do you know nothing? Right? No, at that point, it's infanticide because you'd be killing an infant. It'd be murder. It'd be murder.
Born.
All right.
That thing's already come out of the gate, man. It's born.
Well, I know, but they can't. I mean, it's just psychotic.
So, like, he's fantasizing this like strange universe to where like there is a baby stuck halfway in and halfway out, and suddenly somebody is trying to have an abortion. Like, no wonder she's like, I can't imagine it. Like, in what universe is this a thing? Somebody like, never mind, it's halfway out. I've changed my mind now.
Right.
Like,
Well,
it's born.
I know. It reminds me of, there was an episode of South Park years ago where they were doing this thing about the abortion debate, and Cartman's mother was like, "Oh, I need to abort my son." And they're like, "Well, how many months is he?" And she's like, "Months, 129, because he's a 10-year-old." Right? And so they're like, "Well, I don't know if that's legal." And she goes all the way up the chain, and finally I think she sleeps with Bill Clinton or something to try and get legalized abortion up to like 10 years after birth, that kind of thing. And Clinton's like, "Well, why don't you just give him up for adoption?" She's like, "Adoption, that was the word I was thinking of." But it's like, these guys think like you can abort a baby after it's been born. It's like, no, that's not abortion at that point. It's just fucking murder. I mean,
they're trying to somehow make it different by being like, okay, but it has one foot that's still inside the mom.
oh my God.
You're like,
No, then
what are you talking about?
yeah.
This is not a thing.
It's already half aborted. It's half the pregnancy is terminated. It's just insane.
But so this guy doesn't believe that the election was fair. He thinks that you can have an abortion in the middle of having a baby. Because clearly he doesn't know how women's bodies work. Is this the guy we really want sitting in there? No. Well, not to us, though.
Here's the thing. He looks mild-mannered.
Does he?
Yeah, he has the glasses. But at least Matt Gaetz and Jim Jordan have the decency to look evil. This guy is like a wolf in sheep's clothing. Just watch him. Mild-mannered, anti-abortion, anti-LGBT, anti-climate change. He's a big taker of fossil fuel money. The guy, and by the way, the hubris of these Republicans to go against the will of the American people. American people are all in for women's rights, gay rights, climate change things happening to fix the environment so that we don't all die on this planet or drown on this planet. And they have that's what I call hubris, because they are not listening to the American people. And next year, we're going to fix you.
Joy, this guy.
Yeah, so I agree with Joy. I mean, she's a sharp lady for the most part. But yeah, I mean, that's what the Republicans did. They basically said, we are against everything Americans want as a whole by picking this guy. That's what they did. And I just want to go through some more of this to show how extreme he is. So this is David Pakman. And we'll do one more thing on the abortion thing, even though we don't, not really our wheelhouse, but I suppose we could debate it if we had to. But here's David Pakman. So Mike Johnson's wife had some issues with gay people. I want to talk about that.
Yesterday, we talked about the new Republican Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, being certainly the most extreme and radical speaker in modern political history. Talked about his agenda-setting power and so many of the other reasons why it really matters who is the Speaker of the House. There are a number of new problems for Mike Johnson over the last 24 hours, probably the least vetted Speaker of the House in history. And now the problems are also focusing in on his wife over an organization, a so-called Christian organization. It sounds almost insane to call it that. A Christian organization that likened being gay to bestiality and incest. Yeah. So here's what's going on. HuffPost has a good report. Mike Johnson's wife takes down website that compared being gay to bestiality and incest. You're not going to be shocked at the sort of organization that was doing this. Take a look at this. House Speaker Mike Johnson's wife took down the website for her company, Onward Christian Counseling Services, a day after HuffPost pointed to documents on the site that compared homosexuality to bestiality and incest. Now, remember,
we'll get into most more of this in a bit, but these are right-wing Christians. What that site essentially is promoting conversion therapy, which, for those of you who don't know, that's where we take gay kids and we torture them for several weeks and hopefully turn them straight. And what ended up really happening was a lot of those kids would go to those camps and either have gay sex because they're there with a bunch of other gay kids and you can't monitor them 24/7, or they'd buy into it and a lot of them would commit suicide. So these camps,
good.
But
so,
they didn't really turn anybody straight. Didn't happen. There were people that claimed they did, but it didn't really happen. So, but that's what she promoted. But that's why she's promoting that it's the same as bestiality and incest, which is fucking nuts. First up, with bestiality, it's not the same because with gay sex, they're two consenting adults at least. Right? An animal cannot consent. Right?
No.
You know, the other thing too, I mean, it's like the difference between boxing and bullfighting, right? In boxing, both people have to consent to be in the ring. In a bullfight, the bull didn't want to be there. Right? One of those is horrific. The other one's just a sport. I mean, but yeah, and incest, that they're not related. So I mean, I guess they could be, but I mean, that's just crazy shit to me. They just don't understand how anything works. You know, we'll get into
I don't even know if I have anything I can say about that because that just literally sounds insane to me. Like
it's just homophobia.
It's not even debatable because it's so nuts.
I know. So they're apples and oranges complete. They're not even apples and oranges. They're apples and battleships. I mean, they're not even in the same category. Yeah. So let's watch some more of this.
Ike Johnson has problems with this issue as well, previously arguing that homosexuality should be criminalized if you can think of a more insane thing. HuffPost reported Friday that Kelly Johnson, the wife of Mike Johnson, is owner and CEO of an organization called Onward Christian Counseling Services. Now, I'll tell you right away, just because of the name, we already know a ton about these organizations. There is a movement where non-therapists, remember, they are not licensed therapists, take advantage of the idea of clergy as counselors to say that they provide counseling. They don't say that it's therapy, but they obviously want to be seen as providing an equivalent service to what a psychiatrist, psychologist, licensed independent social worker, licensed mental health counselor, licensed marriage and family therapist. They want to create the impression that they are equally qualified when they are not. So when you look at...
Well, and we'll stop that there because these services are even more sinister than you think because it's not just gay conversion. The other thing these groups do is they fund basically abortion counseling, right? And they have these like trucks and vans and stuff that go around. They have their own clinics and they sucker women to come in thinking they can get an abortion. And then they basically try to talk them out of it and show them pictures of babies and fetuses.
Or scare the hell out of them.
Right.
You know, making them think that, you know, somehow whatever service they were trying to get was going to be unsafe and like make them die or
right, they lie.
Or whatever. That right, they put a lot of propaganda out there.
Right.
And it's definitely disguised. I've read some of the websites, you know, for these, you know, places, and they'll pop up as you're doing research for these varying types of women's services, and you think you're like, okay, this is a place. I mean, that's not Planned Parenthood, but you think it's like a smaller but like organization, and you'll go and start reading on there, and they'll be using as many scare tactics as they can to, you know, make women think that whatever service they wanted to receive is going to, you know, do bodily harm and or kill them.
Right. No. And then like there's the other things about he wanted to make homosexuality illegal. Right? So sodomy laws again. And I want to, boys and girls, just so you know, sodomy laws, not just anal sex, but oral sex is sodomy. So no more blowjobs. This is the anti-blowjob party. I think they should have to live with that.
So if you two like your oral,
that's right. Also,
vote carefully.
Also, his big thing was he wants to push a federal 6-week abortion ban. So the fetal heartbeat thing. So once it has a heartbeat, it doesn't have a heartbeat at 6 weeks. By the way, there's no heart at 6 weeks. It's basically an electrical impulse. But he wants to do no exceptions for rape, incest, nothing. Life of the mother, nothing. If you have an ectopic pregnancy and you're about to die or you're going to die from it, bummer. You can't get an abortion. Even though a 30-minute procedure would solve this problem. Plus, I want to show this because everybody, I used to remember they would show you like pictures of fetuses and shit. Here is a picture of a 6-week-old fetus right here. Oops. Why did it move out? There it is. Did you see that? Barely.
Yeah, that looks like a fuzzy grain of rice.
It's a pile of goo. This is 7-8 weeks. This is 6 weeks. Right? There's no heartbeat. There's no person there yet. It's just a bunch of cells. You know, what was the old joke Bill Maher used to do about abortion? He's like, you know what they do is you can take these things and freeze them and then unfreeze them later. And he's like, you can't do that with a baby. He's like, I know, because I have rich friends that would do that if they could. Let's go on vacation for 2 weeks. Well, what about the kid? I just stick him in the freezer. Oh, man. So he's nuts. It gets even worse, though. I mean, he's just got a weird sense of reality.